our next destination on another Zoom screen. Good evening. It is Tuesday, May 11th at 6:30 p.m. Meeting of the Cohasset Select Board. Our meeting is being held virtually. Still, the first order of business is going to be going into executive session. So first, I'll ask for a roll call.
Corey Evans here.
Diane Kennedy here.
Paul Schubert here.
Carrie Thompson here.
Great. I'd like to ask for a motion to go into executive session under exception number 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. I do declare. The board will be discussing some pending fees and fines from the Conservation Commission. And we'll be joined by 2 members of the Conservation Commission as well as council. Is there a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Diane, I've been here for a while. I don't know what happened.
Okay, sorry about that, Jack. Do you want to just, Jack's here, present, and then we have a motion and a second to go in executive session, and so we'll take.
Aye.
Okay.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Okay, great, everybody. So I imagine Tracy is sending us the executive session link in our email boxes, so I'll see you all there in a minute.
So leave here and go to the next one.
Yes. On the Zoom platform, which can be accessed using the link provided at the top of tonight's posted agenda. Please note that if you would like to speak on any matter, it is at my discretion. It'll depend on how we're trending in the meeting. We have a lot of material to cover tonight. And I'll ask you to do so by raising your hand, and we'll promote you into the meeting. And that's also the case if anybody would like to speak during public comment, please raise your hand and we'll promote you. We are not going to be using the question and answer feature on Zoom. Members of the board and other scheduled participants will be able to participate when called on by the chair. Board members will be able to ask questions of any participant. Those of you who are here for a matter on the agenda, we will be promoting you throughout the meeting. This meeting is also being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Cohasset 143 TV. Okay, we're still waiting for a couple select board members. And again, if anybody has anything for public comment, please raise your hand. Okay. And Tracy, if you could promote the people who we believe are here for the public hearing. And if we can't decipher them, maybe raise your hand for the hearing, the Mr. Dooley's hearing. So while we're waiting for Selectman Creighton, we actually we have a quorum of the board, so I'm going to go ahead and read the public hearing notice. And hopefully by the time I'm done with that, we can open the hearing with him present. This is a public hearing of Cohasset Pub Corp. DBA Mr. Dooley's on whether the general law, chapter 138, section 12, on premises all alcohol restaurant license for Cohasset Pub Corp. DBA Mr. Dooley's Old Village Pub at 9 Depot Court, Cohasset, Mass. 02025 should be modified, suspended, canceled, revoked, declared forfeited, and or otherwise affected under the provisions of Massachusetts general law and all other applicable laws, rules, and regulations for failure to conduct business, failure to have immediately surrendered its license and physically deliver it to the board after ceasing to conduct the licensed business, failure to exercise the license, failure to have a suitable location to conduct the business in non-compliance with the applicable alcohol licensing laws of the Commonwealth and the town of Cohasset. We will open the hearing first with a roll call vote of the select board.
Corey Evans here.
Diane Kennedy here.
Paul Schubert here.
Carrie Thompson here.
And we are also joined by attorney James Lamke, who is special counsel for the town. I would like to, the hearing is now opened. If you're here to testify, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. I see two people that I think are here to testify, and we'll call on you just to introduce yourself and note your affiliation. And then Attorney Lamke will swear in anyone who will be making testimony during this hearing. So I believe we have Noel and John. Noel, you would introduce yourself and address, and also just let us know your affiliation.
Noelle Summers, Cohasset Pub Group Director.
Thank you. Mr. Connell?
Good evening, John P. Connell for the licensee.
Okay, great. And Jen, just because she's our administrator of these matters, do you know if there's anybody else in attendance that wishes to testify? Okay.
Anybody?
So Attorney Lamke, if it's okay, I'm going to turn it over to you just to swear in. I believe it's just Ms. Summers, and sort of open us up to this discussion, and then the board will have an opportunity to ask some questions.
Thank you and good evening. Ms. Summers, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter shall be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. And as the Madam Chair has read the notice, this is a hearing regarding the liquor license that is issued to Dooley's Irish Village Pub. And this meeting is called, or the hearing is called, because the town has been informed that as of date in March, the licensee stopped operating the business and subsequently vacated the premises. So I'd like to just establish a few facts here for the record. I know that your attorney is here, and he'll certainly be given an opportunity to speak and answer some questions, but you're the licensee's representative?
yes,
And can you confirm that when the licensee ceased operation?
yes, our final day was March 17th.
Okay. And when did you vacate the premises?
March 31st.
Okay, and so today is May 11th. So after vacating the whole month of April and up to today, you have not operated at that location. Is that correct?
Yes,
And have you operated that license at any other location?
no,
Do you have any intention of resuming operation at that location?
no.
And could you explain to the board what you are doing with the license? Because as you know, a license is supposed to be exercised. What are your intention and plans regarding the license?
We're actively trying to find another location within Cohasset.
Okay, and can you describe how you are going about doing that and what type of location or business you're seeking to operate with that license in Cohasset?
We've reached out to Key Realty in April to look for different opportunities of opening another bar restaurant. And we also reached out yesterday to the location next to Pilgrim Bank that is for lease.
Okay, so is it your intention to relocate that license to another address in Cohasset?
We were looking at those options, yes.
Okay, but is it an option that you are seeking to relocate in Cohasset, to exercise
Yes,
that license in Cohasset?
Cohasset, yes.
So you're representing to the board here that you do intend to make use of the license?
In Cohasset. Mhm.
Okay. I will acknowledge and suggest for the record that Attorney Cornell had sent a letter to me yesterday, which I shared with the board, which should be made part of the record here. Board is aware of the ABCC policy and practice that licensees who vacate their premises for one reason or another are given an opportunity to relocate the license in that community. And Attorney Cornell's letter indicated that and acknowledged that the policy is usually 6 months from the ABCC. You can appreciate, I think the town is concerned that until that license is either turned in or relocated to some other location, no other license can be assigned to the location that you formerly operated from. So perhaps it would be appropriate for Mr. Cornell to speak and explain what is going on from the license with the license.
Thank you, Mr. Lampkey. As you heard from the licensee, they are exploring their options to either transfer the license to themselves at another location in Cohasset. It could be they transfer it to another, could even be if somebody wanted to move into the old Mr. Dooley's. We just don't know yet. The landlord has filed a civil lawsuit against Miss Summers and her family and Mr. Dooley's for taking the license, which we haven't obviously done. But as the state policy requires local licensing authorities to afford a licensee 6 months to transfer the license or otherwise use it, I think it would be up to the ABCC to decide, if it's fair or unfair that during that 6 month period, landlords have a difficult time putting in another tenant. I would assume they've taken that into consideration when they've had this policy in place since at least 1992. So we are actively exploring our options. We intend to try and make the best of this license. And we would request the Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority, to afford us the 6 months that everybody else gets.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perhaps members of the board would care to ask any questions.
Yeah, members, the select board members, if you have any questions for Ms. Summers, you can just raise your hand. I'll recognize you. I'll start off with not much of a question, but more of a statement in that, obviously, given the last year where businesses were effectively shut down and our small village and truly the appreciation we all had for having a sort of neighborhood pub on Depot Court and Mr. Dooley's, this is a tremendous loss, and to have that building sit empty is really detrimental to our entire level of business down in the village. So particularly now when we're anxious to get everything moving forward and the economy back on and people outside and stopping in and having something to eat and drink and go to the music circus and do what people in Cohasset do, we really, it's a huge void, and it's a noticeable void, and it has tremendous kind of residual impact, which is why we wanted to have you in and have this conversation tonight about the intentions, because we're anxious to have all of our businesses keep running and every building to be filled with happy people doing happy things in Cohasset. So I will recognize Corey, then Carrie, then Paul. I think that was the order the hands went up.
Carrie was first.
Carrie was first. Okay, thanks. She's just on a different place on my screen, so.
It's fine. Our names get a little confusing, me and Corey.
That's what I meant. I just said it wrong.
I do find it frustrating that this space is tied up with the license itself, even though the town has a whole other license that we could be offering. And I know that's frustrating for other possible restaurant owners that would like to get into this old space that Dooley's was in. So I do think there's a lot of frustration there, but I also
Actually in a
understand.
Zoom select board meeting, but I just thought I had to
That's me. But I also understand that that's partly an ABCC rule. But Ms. Summers, I do want to ask you, you said that you've been inquiring about other locations. Are you thinking about trying to just redo Dooley's, or do you have a different restaurant concept? I'm just a little curious. You're saying that you're actively pursuing these locations. What type of concept are you thinking about, or what would you hope to do?
I mean, our thing is Irish pub, so it would be along those lines of what we know.
Corey,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so obviously there's a kind of a 6-month timer here, and I think that the town and this board is eager to get this license operating again, as the chair said. You know, your pub was a very valued part of the community, and not having it there is certainly, we understand that things happen, but we're eager to have something else go in there. You know, at the same time, I'm thinking that, you know, if you're working on something, I hate to kind of have a timer that kind of cuts you off here. So I'd encourage you to share whatever kind of, you know, communications you're having with other places. That way, if there is something that's in the works and some hiccup comes, you know, it's something you could bring to us. That way, we're not thinking that, hey, you know, there's a timer that's running. Certainly, if you're working on something, we don't want to be hindrance to that. So please, you know, I encourage you to share if such discussions are occurring. Keep us in the loop. But other than that, you know, again, thanks for having a great place here, and we're certainly eager to have a resolution, whether it's you or you know, another group coming in. So thank you.
Paul?
So I would love to see if we can, you know, keep you here in town. Certainly that's would be one key element. The other element is that there's an empty building there, but that does not necessarily mean that that building cannot be rented to any other business. So I'm less reluctant to say the license needs to stay in that premises, because certainly a 6-month delay is not A, too long, and B is kind of de rigueur for the legal aspect. I don't want to see a restaurant that was and bar that was very successful be not allowed to look for another place for 6 months in this situation of a pandemic. So I'd be willing to say, give the 6-month option. And I understand they'll be upset at the location currently if they can't rent it without a liquor license, but you know, there are means to rent things other than for a bar. That's all.
I have a question for Attorney Lamke, just in if Ms. Summers and her business were able to find a suitable location, let's just say July 1st. What would be the mechanics of doing the transfer of the license that would free up the location? That's I understand that's the issue is that, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Summers, you're not planning to go back to the Depot Court location. So if you found a location and we're beginning the process of you know, building out a restaurant, which might take significantly more time than 6 months or whatever, you know, what would be the mechanics for us to be able to free up the license? Would we do the transfer to a new location then, and that would effectuate the release of that property so that we could issue another license there?
That's correct, Ms. Kennedy. If they find another location and an application is made to transfer the license from the current place that it is assigned to a new location, the board could approve that, assuming that it meets all the necessary legal requirements. And once that is approved by the board, it then goes to the ABCC for their approval. I would hope that the ABCC would facilitate their review and hopeful approval of that, because once it's finally approved, then the license is no longer assigned to the former location, and that then frees it up, that location, to receive a assignment of another liquor license.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Jim?
Yeah. Could you explain why, it may be self-evident, but just so that we're all clear, why it is that you did vacate? I understand your lease was up did you not have any intention of staying there, or why was the
Mis-
business
uh,
not continued there?
Mr. Lamke, because this, it's all a matter of a lawsuit now, I prefer to answer on behalf of the client.
Sure, that's fine.
And just say that the Mr. Dooley's, the Summers family wanted to stay. They couldn't work it out with the landlord. The landlord wanted them to leave and they left.
Okay. And it would help us in terms of documenting our record here, if you would consider sharing communications that Dooley's had with the landlord that led ultimately to the vacating of the premises. I realize that you're involved in litigation, but I would imagine that those documents would be part of the litigation. But we can speak offline about that. But I think that would help document our file as well. The town's record file for licensing. In terms of the litigation, what court is it filed in? Could you tell us that?
Noel, do you know? I'm not handling the lawsuit end of this. I believe it's pending in
Norwood, I believe.
No, I'm sorry. It's pending in Norfolk Superior Court.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be in Dedham. Okay.
The complaint has been filed. I don't believe we filed an answer yet.
Okay. Alrighty. I assume, and you can confirm, that if you find a location sooner than the 6 months, that you would be seeking to transfer the license expeditiously.
Yes, the real date upon which you can file an application to transfer is the date you have a lease, right? So you need a lease in order to file an application to transfer. In the lease, we always put in that it's contingent upon licensure. So as soon as, if we can have a deal somewhere in town, we will have the application in immediately.
Okay, and just so we're clear, you're representing to the town, to the board, that you are sincerely genuine in seeking out a new location in Cohasset to transfer this license to.
I guess sincerity. The licensee has already made contact with Key Realty. They're looking at spaces. They have every intention of trying to get a new location within Cohasset. I know their particulars are a space that preferably has already been built out as a restaurant, and those are few and far between. But there's a few places in town that you have the Stop and Shop Plaza. I understand there's there's issues with that. There could be some locations downtown. The Summers family would like to remain in the village. They thought they had a winning concept, and while they were in business, they were all very happy. And as somebody myself who went to that restaurant hundreds of times with my kids, I think it was a great concept. So they're looking to replicate that, and they're just currently without a lease, as the landlord doesn't want to lease to them any longer.
Okay, Corey,
I'm looking through the letter that Attorney Lamke forwarded to us. It looks like you guys are requesting to hold on to the license until October 31st, 2021. Is that correct?
We're looking to be afforded until October 31st.
Okay.
Per the rule, 6 months.
Okay.
That 6 months from the date of your notice, which is April 30th.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like an appropriate date. I'm comfortable with using that as a date for our deadline.
I'm going to recognize Jen Oram, but before I do that, I know there are people in the audience who would like to speak. This is an administrative hearing and we're not going to be taking any public comment. Jen?
I was just going to request if it be possible, and I can monitor the timeline, to request that we get updates about every 4 to 6 weeks.
I think that would be great.
So I can certainly follow up with Noel, or however the board wishes, or with Attorney Lamke can do so with Attorney Connell, whatever, but I'll just keep an eye on the time if that's okay with the board.
I think that would be great. And I think it's because, you know, we really do want to, we want to encourage new business. We want to encourage, you know, you to continue being neighbors. And, you know, I think if, you know, we can close this particular hearing maybe with, Jim, would you recommend that we just have a vote to close with the understanding that, you know, we will meet again, or we will schedule another hearing if the license isn't being used in 6 months, and then in the meantime, we'll be getting updates fairly regularly.
Yes, are you in agreement, Attorney Cornell, to provide the board with periodic updates every 4 weeks or so?
Yes, that's fine. If you want to send me a communication and set up, you know, deadlines or dates, that's fine.
Okay, very good. Yes,
Okay,
at this point, you could move to the draft motion unless there are more questions. I see Selectman Schubert has a question.
No, I was going to make a motion.
is our motion, yeah.
Okay,
But if there's no further discussion, I'd be willing to make a motion.
Go ahead, Paul.
Make a motion that we move to advise the licensee that if your license is not exercised and in operation by October 31st, 2021, date requested by the licensee or sooner, a hearing will be held shortly after that date for which you receive notice as to whether your license will be modified, suspended, revoked, canceled, or declared forfeited, or other appropriate administrative action taken, including for non-use, not having a location approved by the local licensing authority and the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission from which to exercise the license and or for other lawful reasons. The local licensing authority, the current select board, is giving you at least 6-month notice that you must secure a place approved by the said board and the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission from which to operate your license and be in operation or transfer your license to a licensee approved by the town and the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, or turn in the license, or the local licensing authority. The current select board will hold a hearing or hearings as stated, and that the licensee be further advised that the local licensing authority, the current select board, reserves all of its rights, claims, and remedies, including calling for a hearing sooner than the 6 months. End of motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for a roll call vote, please. Jack, you're on mute.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Great, thank you. Good luck, Ms. Summers.
Good
Thank
luck.
you very much for being with us tonight. Sorry for the delay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Pledge of License from the Red Lion Inn. Attorney Lamke's staying with us for this as well. And I'm going to let Tracy promote, I believe it's Alex Marconi representing the Red Lion Inn Operating LLC. Alex, if you want to reveal yourself, and then I'll turn it over to Jim to kind of walk us through what a pledge of license is, and then we'll hear from Mr. Marconi.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here representing the Red Lion Inn regarding the pledge of our license. Attorney Lamke.
yes, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but procedurally, just so we can swear you in, would you please raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will now give in this hearing shall be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. So you may want to explain what it is that you're requesting from the board.
Yes, thank you, Attorney Lamke. We are requesting a pledge of our liquor license, which is required as part of our mortgage agreement with Pilgrim Bank. As I understand from my counsel, who unfortunately cannot be on the call tonight, This is standard operating procedure for liquor licenses where you have an owner operator and a mortgage premise.
And basically, the pledge of the license is basically you're putting it up for collateral.
Exactly.
The business entity, which is more valuable with the liquor license attached to it. And
Correct.
Jim agreed this is relatively standard. I know this board has done this in the past.
Yes, this is a customary practice when a licensee borrows money from a lender, that the lender would want a security interest in the license, while pledging the license is not the same thing as giving a UCC type of security interest. It is the closest thing that can be done, whereby they're assigning or pledging the license. And because of that, it requires the approval of the licensing authority. It's not a transfer of the license like a mortgage would be technically a transfer of title to the property subject to the rights of the mortgagor. But perhaps Alex can just confirm that you're seeking you as the Red Lion Inn, the license holder, are seeking to pledge the license in order to secure an unlimited guarantee that Red Lion Inn signed as additional collateral for a note and a loan agreement between the bank and CHP South Main Realty LLC.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. And the principals of the Red Lion Inn are also involved as principals of CHP South Main Realty.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So it appears to be in order procedurally.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board on this action or anything else? Okay.
I'd like to do a motion.
Okay, please.
If there's no further discussion, I move that we approve the application for a pledge of the alcohol license held by the Red Lion Inn Operating LLC, doing business as Red Lion Inn, to the Abington Bank, subject to the proviso that the pledgee may not use the license without the prior approval of the town and the Alcohol and Beverage Control Commission following a proper application and hearing.
Is there a second? Okay, roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Great. Thank you, Alex, for your patience tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the rest of the board.
Thank you. Good
luck.
night. Okay, we actually have another hearing.
If you don't need me anymore, I'll leave the meeting, but if you have anything to ask me or want me to do, let me know.
Everybody all set with Council Lamke? Great. Thank you so much, Jim.
Okay.
Appreciate your night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, all.
This
Bye.
next one's a little more straightforward. And Tracy, if there's somebody here representing Verizon or National Grid or whoever the party is, you can promote them. And Brian is here as well. Great. Hi, Brian. And Jose, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, first and last name and address, and that you're representing National Grid. You're on mute.
Hi, good evening, board.
Good
My name is Jose Vasquez, and I'm representing National Grid, and I live in Hyde Park, Mass.
Great, thank you. Brian, can you just walk the board through what this whole hearing is all about?
Sure. So I'll share screen if I can, and just show kind of a host disabled screen share. So Tracy, could you give me share screen abilities?
Yep, all set.
Try that again. All right, there we go. All right. So are you guys looking at the GIS map on my computer?
We are,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so I'll just zoom out a little bit. So the area in question is across the street from Straits Pond on Jerusalem Road. It's 666 Jerusalem Road. So on the inland side, this is the location. The issue is there's a National Grid guy wire and a Verizon guy wire to an old dead tree, which is, let me see if I can,
I don't know.
here is a picture of it. Do you see the picture of the tree?
Negative.
Negative.
No.
Nope. Stop
I can imagine old dead tree though.
How about now?
There you go.
So, so that's where the guys are connected to. And National Grid has gone through the process of working with Verizon to get a new pole location out there. So historically, you know, the power infrastructure it's approaching 100 years old, and so there's a lot of old guys to trees and such. But that's not anything they do anymore. So they've been going through and systematically removing guys from trees and putting in brace poles and you know, standard poles. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jose to add any more color or detail.
Yes. So I met out with the two residents that this pole would affect, you know, in front of them, and we agreed on the location. And the purpose of the pole is basically it's a stub pole which holds the lines back so they don't fall over. So we're just looking to set the stub pole, remove the tree guy in the dead tree, because I believe the customer is looking to remove that dead tree off the property.
Great, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I was wondering when that was going to occur. Thank you. I have driven by that location numerous times, waiting for the stump to fall over. So I'm in full support of this.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of them that we're trying to take care of. Like Brian said, it was old practice, so we're trying to clean that up.
So we received the language, which is sort of old school in our packets, and I'll ask somebody to read through it. It's something that gets signed by the clerk of the board. So Jack, you'll have to stop and sign it. Assuming we do this, and basically because the town has oversight over the public way is why we need to grant permission for a pole to be erected, a telephone pole. And I'll tell you, we did telephone poles along Cedar Street and had pole hearings. Brian, you probably remember this. I think they went on for a collective maybe 10 to 12 hours. Because we were talking about every pole and trying to minimize poles, and that was a number of years ago. This is pretty straightforward and simple, and certainly something that the homeowner's been asking for a while. So if there's any other questions for either Jose or Brian, otherwise, if somebody would like to craft a motion based on the hearing notice that was in our packet.
So I make a motion that we permit Massachusetts Electric Company and Verizon New England Incorporated permission to erect and maintain poles in the area of Jerusalem Road to install one J/O pole 122-30, approximately 40 feet plus or minus southeast from the existing pole 122. The plan number is 303-15897, and it's dated 2/8/2021 from Mass Electric Company and Verizon New England Incorporated.
Second.
All right, is there any other comments on it? Okay, I'll go for a roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Jose, for being with us. Tracy, there's a number of documents that do need to get signed, I think, by the entire board, or at least a quorum of. So if you could just alert us to when they're available to be signed, and we'll take care of that. But great. We're all
Thank you
set.
for doing this because this is, I was waiting for this to come down.
Okay,
sleep
no.
well.
I wish we had a guy from Verizon here so I can get his cell phone number and call him. You're
You
off
and
the
me
hook,
both.
Jose.
Great,
Have a
thanks,
good
Jose.
night.
So
Thanks,
much.
Jose.
Thank you for your time. Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Jose.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, we have a number of permits. How exciting. We're starting to look at events and some of the things that we're used to doing at this time of year. And on that topic, we will be discussing transient vendor licenses at an upcoming meeting, which is something we normally do at this time of year. Corey?
Do we have to close the hearings or anything like that procedurally? No? Okay, fine.
I
No,
think
fine.
the vote on this
vote is
one was just, it
closed it.
was just
Okay.
administratively different. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the first one, Jen's here, I think, helping us walk through the farmer's market applications. So there are two in our packet. One is for a kickoff day event on May 29th, 2021, and the other is their annual weekly farmer's market from June 3rd through October 7th. Jen, do you want to give some color to it for us and the public?
Certainly, thank you so much. We at the event committee met with Michelle twice. Prior to that, she did submit a COVID plan through Pam Fahey of the Board of Health and was approved. We've also made sure that we discussed the use of the common in regard to the new construction that took place to protect any overuse, et cetera, no vehicles. And so the police chief, fire chief, safety officer, Board of Health, myself have met with them and reviewed it. And I don't see them on, so I wanted to make sure that, you know, that they've met all of the concerns and they're very excited to come back. This year they'll actually be they'll put a porta patio back at Town Hall like they used to do, and also have the storage unit, which that allows them to unload. So it's a little more back to what it used to be. So we were very excited, and they are too.
That sounds terrific. And can you just differentiate on the May 29th event? Is that just
That's just kickoff that they've done before. They used to do it actually like tied into Town Hall, but this is just to get it's a lighter amount of people, my understanding is, and then they have the weekly, so they try to get everybody into the spirit just a little bit early.
Okay, that sounds great. Any questions from the board?
Should we make two separate motions for this, do you think? One.
Yeah,
for-
I think it's just easier to do it that way since they're two separate applications. Want to go for it?
Sure. I move that we approve the Cohasset Farmers Market for their proposed Saturday kickoff on Saturday, May 29th, 2021 from 8:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. We'll get to Jack after Corey.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Okay. And the next one is the regular weekly farmers market.
I move that we approve the Cohasset Farmers Market for their regular weekly Thursday time slot starting, hold on, looking for the dates.
June 3rd to October 7th.
June 3rd to October 7th, 2021.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Great. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, this is, this is part of the end of the, beginning of the end, I guess we call it.
This
It's
is
just a wonderful, the town is set up so nicely. We've got high vaccination rates. We're going into the summer. It's getting back to normal. This is a great start of a wonderful summer. That's it.
It's very exciting. Thank you. All right, Jen, thank you very much for being here. Moving on, the next application we have is for the red carpet ceremony, pre-prom. Very exciting. Kimberly Albanese is here joining us. If you want to reveal yourself and kind of walk us through your plans.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, nice to see you.
So nice to see you. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you. You want to tell us a little bit about the plans for our red carpet? A little different this year, but happy that you're able to do it.
Yes, very happy to. So we've been working for a couple of months now with your office, with the Board of Health, and more recently with Jen. So we appreciate your guidance and your help getting us to this point. So the limit, the 150 person outdoor limit is still intact. And so the plan is built around that. So in order to accommodate 120-ish students and 2 parents per student, we've decided to break the group into three groups that we will cycle through the location. So first off, it's a new location this year. It's at the Sailing Club rather than Town Hall. And that was intentionally chosen to be able to limit the crowds. We know that the town loves to come and watch this annual tradition, and we did not believe that we could control the crowds. However, 143 will be videoing a live stream delay, and Sean Galvin will also be videoing the event. So what will happen for the students? All students will go to the high school at 5 p.m. and they will board one of 3 pre-assigned buses, and they will essentially have, we'll call it a red prom adventure. And so one bus, we're doing what we can just to make this more special than any other red carpet in the past. And so the first bus, one bus will go directly to the Sailing Club. And then another bus will do a little bit of a perimeter around Cohasset. They'll all stay within Cohasset. And we've arranged for a stop. This is a secret, so hopefully the kids aren't listening. They'll stop at Sandy Beach, and there will be some special surprises at Sandy Beach for them, including some professional photographers and some props for a photo shoot. The folks that go to the Sailing Club, the parents will be pre-told which group their kid is in, and they will be given on Monday night the time slot for when they should arrive at the Sail Club. When we spoke with the police and Jen's committee yesterday, what we're going to do is advise that group 1 and group 3 can park at Lightkeeper's house, and the rest of the folks will be encouraged to park Parker Ave or down by Atlantica in the public spaces. We will also have police detail on duty, essentially preventing people from entering Governor Island once the Lightkeeper area is full, and also doing crowd control. And then we've sent you a couple of diagrams. And so the photos, when you first enter Governor's Island, there will be a parent check-in area and a student check-in area. If you are not pre-registered, you will not advance beyond that area. So that will be the first point of crowd control. And in the event, one of the group 2, for example, if any of those folks arrive early, they will be placed in the lighthouse circles, socially distanced, and we will have staff there ensuring social distancing, until which point they can move to the seating area. We have folks cleaning the seats between each of the 3 phases, and we've notated the times of that all that's going to happen on the timeline. And then we will have approximately 15 event staff spacing throughout. Call them people movers, keeping everyone moving at a socially distant area.
Yep.
Maybe I'll pause for questions.
Yep. I guess the one question I have was just, is there a tent at all, or just what happens if it rains? Is there a rain?
So no tent. If it rains, there's an overhang by the Sailing Club, and the students, we would be able to stay dry, and we would just walk the students through an abbreviated area, and the parents would have to bring umbrellas.
Okay, but it's not going to rain.
And we would do it's not going to rain. We looked at the 10-day forecast starting today.
Great.
In the 60s.
Beautiful.
I'm just sad we can't all go this year. It sounds great.
There'll be a lot of photos. We've got 7 professional photographers hired.
Fantastic. And Cohasset 143 on it, and Sean. So terrific. Any other questions from the board, or any other final comments, Kim?
No, we're thrilled to be at this point. Thrilled to be here
Yeah.
proposing this to you.
We are as well. Paul?
So I presume all the COVID requirements are there. This is now, again, another great activity as we come out of it. We're, again, one of the highest ranks towns that's vaccinated. I bet you half the kids are probably going to be vaccinated as well. This is going to be a nice event. So I make a motion that we approve the, I guess I'm flipping back through
Red
here.
carpet
The
ceremony.
red carpet ceremony pre-prom on February 5, 2021
Be
in
May.
the associated locations.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
It's a really impressive plan. A really great job. It's going to be a great night. Corey Evans, aye. Absolutely.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye. Congratulations.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Go get the hair done.
Grateful.
Thank you.
Appreciate
A
it.
lot of hard work.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you. Next up, I just saw that Chief Sylvia joined us. I was expecting our veteran service agent
Diane, he's coming in. Hold on.
okay. Is that Phil on the 617 number?
Yes.
So, VSO Phil or Chief Sylvia, or whoever's going to speak about the Memorial Day events, which is another, again, something we're all tremendously excited about. If you want to reveal yourself so we can see you, because we miss seeing faces. Do we get to see you, Phil?
No, thankfully for you guys, you don't.
Smart move.
Oh, no, I'm really disappointed. I may not let you speak. Go ahead. Welcome, Phil, our Veteran Services Agent Officer.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. A lot has been said, and certainly a lot in what you all have discussed already in your meeting, with things, knock on wood, hopefully getting a little bit better. And by the time Memorial Day rolls around, the state will be at a point where quote unquote parades can be held at a 50% attendance capacity. We've done a lot of discussions with the health side and with everyone, in leadership, and really for Cohasset's Memorial Parade in particular, from the Common to the Harbor. It's a very fluid event and next to impossible to include to control head count from a standpoint of what would be 50%. So the veteran side, everyone is fine with doing a modified approach where we would still honor our stops at our usual stops in the cemeteries for our fallen veterans and do our appropriate wreath layings at certain spots, but eliminating the marching in between where, a lot of residents would come out and be jammed on the sidewalks. It would be impossible to control social distancing or numbers in that capacity. So that was kind of the thought process behind the schedule that we've put together.
That's great. Can you just, for the public's sake, just kind of walk us through the high points of the schedule?
Absolutely. There's been a lot of work done already, as always happens. Basically, when you get into April, we start doing preparation in the cemeteries and around memorials. The big dates for everyone, and what will be a little bit different from last year when we were really discouraging folks from being anywhere around each other, is that a lot of these key events could have folks attend and watch us lay a wreath or set a flag or whatever, as long as mask protocol and social distancing is observed. It certainly can happen. So the key events are Saturday, 22 May, coming up. We will construct the healing field, put up Veterans Memorial Park down the harbor with all the state flags. That's Saturday, 22 May. By Sunday, 23 May, all of the cemeteries and all of the memorials in town will be fully decorated with the proper flags and set up for Memorial Day. The following Saturday, 29 May at 1 o'clock, which is unlike last year, we will actually be able to host the dedication ceremony for the healing field, which will be 1 o'clock down at Veterans Memorial Park. Memorial Day itself will be a little modified again to eliminate some of the marching and some of the crowding that really, you know, even though maybe some folks would try to hide behind the fact that it was only 50%, probably not the way we want to go. We would have 8 o'clock wreath laying at the POW MIA Square in the center of town, 9 o'clock wreath laying at the Gold Star Mothers Memorial and Woodside Cemetery, and then 11 o'clock wreath laying at Veterans Memorial Park down the harbor. In between those timelines, we have a group of veterans that will be transporting themselves, not a big number, 15 to 20 folks, to march into the local cemeteries like we do every year to properly honor the fallen veterans that are buried in those cemeteries. Again, the thought being to eliminate the marching, eliminate the crowds, but you know, pay proper respects and do the things that we do every year and do so well in Cohasset to honor our veterans, especially on Memorial Day with our fallen veterans. Keep in mind that the healing field will be open, you know, that entire week, and Veterans Memorial Park will be wide open for folks, obviously observing proper protocol to go through and reflect and do the things that folks like to do on Memorial Day. So I think this year will be a huge uptick from last year, but still keep us well within safety guidelines and project the proper image for a town that has done so much, but you know, nobody is out of the woods yet. And I think that, you know, we wouldn't be overextending. We would be showing restraint, but proper honoring of the things that make Cohasset so good on the veteran side.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions for Phil? Carrie?
Thank you for all this, Phil. After our virtual ceremonies last year, it's really exciting. We'll be able to do this in person. I have had a couple people in town asking, are they required to wear masks for these outdoor ceremonies? And is everyone technically allowed to come to this, or are you wanting to limit it a little bit more in terms of invites?
Well, it's, I mean, my thought is as long eliminating the marching, because in the marching, everyone is constricted to sidewalks. There's no way to spread out. Every place we lay a wreath, you can get 2 nautical miles away from your friend next to you if you want to. I mean, there's loads of roads. So I wouldn't view that as a problem at all. I can, you know, obviously I can vet that through the proper, you know, the health board and whatnot, but I don't think that should be a problem. I just thought from a parade standpoint, the marching where people gather and they're restricted to the sidewalks was just a non-starter for controlling things. But unlike last year, Carrie, to answer the question, you know, last year we really couldn't advertise a whole lot because we did not want to. This year, I think, you know, all the wreath lanes can be advertised and folks can show up, and I would think it's more muscle memory for everyone to be smart about where they are in relation to the folks they stand around and mask protocol and whatnot. I wouldn't view it as being a problem because we will not be in an area that is contained for an extended period of time. Folks can spread out, folks can move around, and before they're there, we're gone. So it shouldn't be an issue.
And it's outside. So I'll put out all the invites on Facebook, Phil, and social media.
Thank you. Any other questions? Like we've said with Kim before on the pre-prom, Phil, thank you and everyone on your team on this, because you said it, this is really one of Cohasset's most unique and valuable and cherished remembrances and weekends because of how well this town has honored their veterans and especially those that have given their life on Memorial Day. So thank you for the hard work, and it's just going to be wonderful to see the flags again and put it in the context of where we are and where we've been the last year. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank every member of the select board. I tell all my VSOs and I tell everyone that asks me that I get nothing but support in the town of Cohasset and encouragement. You know, a lot of these folks in different towns don't get financial backing. They don't get encouragement to do different things. And that's not an issue here in Cohasset, and that does not go overlooked by the veteran population. So I thank you all.
Thanks for that.
And Phil, really, we greatly appreciate our veterans. And there's probably the most important event every year in our little town is this weekend. So thank you for doing all the work to put it on.
Is there
My
a
pleasure.
motion?
I move that we approve the town Memorial Day events as presented for May 31st, 2021.
Through May 31st, yeah.
Through May 1st, yeah.
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Phil, what do you think about November, the Marine Corps luncheon?
We'll be ready.
See you there. Great. Next up is Corey. I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of run us through the town common policy, which you drafted and was in our packets, and we discussed at a previous meeting.
Yeah, so yes, I took some more feedback from our previous discussion. I had some more discussion with some in-town groups, notably the South Shore Art Center that was expressed a lot of excitement over being able to use the Common. Just as a refresher for everybody, this is a program to allow in-town groups to use the Common free of charge. They can book a time slot and then they can host an event on the Common. Kind of the highlights of this event is that all requirements of a normal event, just like we heard through the previous 3 events, are still the same. So any COVID requirements, any insurance requirements. The two or some of the major differences here is that one, there's only one application required for the entire summer. So from Memorial Day through Labor Day, a group can submit one application, and then they can, if it's approved through all the normal procedures and processes, they can have kind of any day they want. They wouldn't have to come in front of us again because we're pre-approving the program. So if they apply for an event permit under this program, it's assumed that it's approved by the board. The other large tweak is that there is no fee for these events. So typically there's an event application fee. Anyone who's applying under this program will not pay a fee to use the town common. I think it serves the town, its businesses, our residents, a great service to allow the common to be used in this way. I appreciated Mr. Schubert's comments a few weeks ago about how this is kind of the original intent. And you know, as was brought up earlier, we're looking good health-wise, but we've got some great weather coming up, and there's no reason not to take advantage of it. So I've drafted this plan with a lot of input from both town hall, businesses, as well as all of my colleagues here. And I think it's something that we should approve and get to having some fun outside.
I have just a quick question. So like the art center could say, we're going to book 9 to noon every Monday from this date through that date. Is that right when you say, or would they?
No, that's correct. So I think some of the mechanisms here are still things we'll have to figure out. If obviously every business applies for every single day, there'll have to be a discussion. I don't get the sensation that is going to be the case. You know, I don't. The people I've talked to, it's been, oh yeah, we'll do one here, we'll do one there. It hasn't been, you know, and if that's the case, then we can adjust it. One caveat in this program is that if you have a event that's approved under this new program, and there's a normal event that does pop up, you kind of get bumped. This will not, basically normal town events do take precedent because they obviously have a kind of a higher bar of entry. So, but again, the idea being businesses can easily apply for an outdoor time to have their outdoor event. All COVID-19 guidelines are still enforced. All the normal stuff is still enforced. We're not going to allow any food service. We're not going to allow anything that requires any sort of fire, EMS, or police detail. These are purely intended to be events that are low impact on the community, easy to host, very safe. That's the vision here.
Any other questions from board?
And just to clarify, Corey, I know we've talked about this, but we won't be preventing any members of the public from using the common because of this, right?
Correct. In the documentation, it says that any business or nonprofit group or resident that is affiliated or has an address in the town of Cohasset, again, the only threshold is the insurance threshold. So if you're an individual and you want to host an event, you're welcome to, but you'll have to get insurance just like any business would. So that's the only kind of barrier to entry outside of the permit, the application itself.
Really good work, Corey. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the Town Commons event as presented for the summer from, what's the date from?
It is, I lost it. It's from Memorial Day, so that's May 31st.
May 31st.
Through Labor Day.
Till when? Till Labor Day?
Labor Day.
Yeah.
Till Labor
September
Day,
6th.
September 6th, 2021.
Yep, and just, it's the Get Outside 2021 program. Yep.
Cohasset Get Outside 2020.
Also known as the 2020 Get Outside program.
Thank you. Carrie's second is Stan's. I'll go for a roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Short, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
All right, getting through
Get
it.
outside and do some stuff. I love it. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely, cannot wait. This is my favorite part of the agenda. Chris, you're up for some updates on town meeting.
Okay, there's been just two quick, one new, actually, if we can add Tim Davis to the conversation.
Thank you. I was just gonna tell Tracy that.
So first, if you recall, the South Shore Vocational School District was placing forward a roughly $18 million renovation project, which went through all the screenings and everyone voted for it. At least here in Cohasset. So apparently one of the member communities was concerned about the amount. So the board went back and they've reduced the amount to $10,516,372. So they've taken about $8 million out of their request. I'm not entirely sure what it is they shrank back, but I know they had a tiered list in the presentation they've given us. I'm representing it to you with that new number. Everything else is, everything else in the warrant is going to be the same except for that amount of money, which we did change, by the way, because we got this in advance. So because that's a locked in, that language is locked in, we changed the amount going to the warrant. So, but we also removed everyone's vote because you actually didn't vote on a $10 million project, you voted on an $18 million project. So
Right.
I can have, if you want something, there's a letter that's been circulated to all of you from the board, which just documents they've changed the amount of money. So,
and Chris, is in the motion for town meeting, are we voting like a percentage? Can you remind me a percentage of that total, or is it is there a specific Cohasset number?
No, every community has to approve the entire amount, and then
Got it.
Remember, I think the upper bound for Cohasset was like, I want to say $12,000. So
I remember us talking about that number, but it's
it
really,
kind of-
we're just approving the project. We're approving
Correct.
the debt. Oh,
and the timing obviously will be a little bit different, and the impact on Cohasset will be 80,
less.
about 40% less, I guess. Yeah. So that's pretty much the sum of stuff. So if you're willing to, if you want to revote, I mean, you voted in favor of it. If you want to revote the recommendation at the $10,516,372 number as opposed to the $18 million.
Okay. Would anybody like to make that motion? That we recommend to town meeting approval of the article relating to this South Shore VOTEC at
Make a
that
motion,
amount?
we recommend the town meeting floor hold on. Article 19, debt authorization for South Shore VOTEC for the amount of 10,000,000
516-372.
51632
372.
372.
Okay.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, aye.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Next,
The
yes,
second-
Chris?
Yeah, the second one is an amendment to the one-time costs, which is actually kind of an exciting amendment. And we have Tim Davis here to talk about it a little bit more. But what it is adding a approval for a conveyor system at the down at the waterfront for the assistance of the lobster fleet. It would initially probably be installed down by the Lawrence Wharf area, which is down kind of next to the old salt house. Obviously, timing of construction and all, and figuring that out being part of this. The money would actually come from a repurposed grant. We were able to repurpose a grant that we had received from the state, and the rest would come from the Waterways Fund. That's an amount that builds up from fees that come in from the
Moorings or?
no, it's fact it's actually funded by Chapter 91 penalties and boat excise. Sorry, it's boat
Okay.
excise that goes into that. So there's roughly $100,000 that we've been taking a little bit every year and just allocating it out so that work can be done around the harbor. This would take another 60 out. But Tim could explain the project more, and I believe the Harbor Committee voted unanimously for it. And Tim can talk about that.
Great, Tim, I'll give you the floor. You're on mute.
Am I on?
There you are. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Yes, this project was unanimously approved by the Harbor Committee. Let me just give a little background. The Harbor Committee has been working on a project on Government Island to enhance the infrastructure there, primarily in support of the commercial fishing fleet. Last fall, while we were well underway to redesigning and putting in lift systems and so forth, we were informed, we, the Harbor Committee and the commercial fishing fleet and the harbor master were all informed that because there was no Chapter 91 license for Government Island, we'd have to go through that whole process. So this delayed putting in any new infrastructure there by at least 2 years. The harbor master was incensed, as we all were, and she grabbed the proverbial bull by the horns and went off and developed a proposal to put a conveyor system on Town Wharf. This was a wonderful example of how somebody really takes an initiative and works hard to get it done. In conjunction with Michelle Leary in our procurement department, they found the money. They've got bids from different contractors for both the conveyor system and the dock to go with it. And the hope is that that will be in within the next couple of months. So kudos to the harbor master and to our procurement department. It's all going to work well for the harbor, for the community, and for the commercial fishermen.
Great, thank you. Tim, is this more of a temporary fix until we get the Chapter 91 to do more extensive infrastructure improvements?
Yes, and in fact, the conveyor system is intended to be one that will be temporary there until the government island system is done, and then it'll be transferred there. Ultimately, there will be a lift system as well as a conveyor system and an additional pier that will service additional commercial fishing fleet, plus for potentially longer commercial fishing boats that if we do not have a lobster industry sometime in the future, we have another commercial fishing industry that this will be able to service. So we're trying to look forward to the days when whatever the environment brings us, we will be able to deal with it, because I think all of us know how important having a commercial fishing fleet in Cohasset Harbor is to the harbor, those of us that use and love the harbor, but also to the entire Cohasset community.
Absolutely, great, thank you. Any questions for Chris or Tim?
I'll make a
Okay,
motion for-
Paul, and then Chris, could you give us the total amount that will be on the warrant? What,
That's what I was looking for.
okay,
This is past due. So
Yeah, it's got to go into the informational summary. Lori is having another meeting tomorrow to get closer on the number.
okay,
The upper number, and again, this we're mixing. It's going to be, I believe the number is like $90,000, something like that, and it's 55 from the Waterways Fund and 45 from the repurpose grant.
okay.
That said, it's kind of we're going to get to a harder number in the next. We're kind of moving fast to get to town meeting. And
Could,
go ahead.
no, what I was gonna say is, could I recommend that we recommend including this on the warrant, but we
Yes.
don't recommend the actual number until we know
town
the
meeting
number?
floor.
We can do that right before town meeting?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure this was socialized with all of you now. And if you officially say, put it in the motion packet, which is what I will do, because it's not going to be in the warrant per se, but it'll be in the motion packet.
Okay,
And describe it that night. And then you and the advisory committee can all vote on it, hopefully.
I don't anticipate any issues. It's literally just, unless we have a number, it doesn't make any sense to vote a
And I would say you could vote 100 and it could be less, but why do that? I really
Right.
think it's tight. So-
And it's a funding article, so the number is important. Okay, Paul, do you want to make a recommendation to add this to the list of one-time costs?
I'd make a motion to recommend at town meeting floor, Article 11, allocation of funds for one-time cost conveyor system for the harbor, amount to be described in future time period.
Okay, was that a second, Corey? Okay, roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Okay, Tim, great work. Thank you.
Yeah, as somebody who
Congratulate Lori
unloaded,
for us for thinking outside the box and making something happen.
As somebody who used to unload fishing boats, this lift system and conveyor system, wow, it's going to save a lot of backs.
It sure will.
Absolutely. Great, thank you.
Feel an event coming on. Paul Schubert unloading fishing vessels.
I know, it's like Popeye. Need your spinach for that.
I used to be in good shape.
Next up is the memorial tree and bench policy, which was, I guess I want to socialize with the board if they're, we discussed this at a meeting in early April. We had some input. I worked with Carrie and updated some things, cleaned up the language. It basically boils down to, and I think, let me just get it in front of me. It's a process for tribute, tree, and bench sponsorship policy. So basically what it is if people want to do any kind of a memorial or honor bench or tree, it basically asks them to make a donation to the town. And the town will use that donation to put a bench where a bench is needed and in a style that is approved by the town, and or a tree. And it's pretty streamlined, but it will help us keep, well-meaning people from going and buying a bench and saying, I want to drop this on this street, or I want to, do something. So I think it's a streamlined process. I don't know if the board has had a chance to review the edits. It was just uploaded to the OneDrive today. So, if you're not comfortable with voting, we can push it off to another meeting, but I wanted to make sure we don't lose sight of it so that we can keep it rolling. Carrie?
And I'll just echo what Diane said. In researching this, it seems like this is something a lot of other towns and cities have been doing and adopting. So it does seem like our town needs one to keep things streamlined. And I like how clear and crisp and classy it is. That's my 2 cents.
And I will say for those at home, it really starts off by saying the purpose of this policy is to establish guidelines, standards, and procedures for the request and consideration, installation, and care of trees or benches in honor of Cohasset residents. because public space is limited, that town, and in bold, the town encourages honorary tribute memorial contributions to town managed gift funds or the many nonprofit booster groups, conservation organizations, or community nonprofits. In other words, it's preferable to donate money to elder services or to the Cohasset Conservation Trust or something, as opposed to looking for a bench. But anyway, Corey.
I mean, the only thing that came to mind is, some sort of scheduling or timing for these. I mean, you wonder if, the bench was dedicated 50 years ago, if that dedication can then be memorialized somewhere else, and then the bench can be, I don't want to say freed up, but we can redeploy that area for another donation. That way benches stay fresh and we don't, forget anybody, but, some sort of way to make this sustainable going forward.
There is a useful life.
I saw that for the trees. I didn't see that for the bench. Is there a bench? Was there a bench there too?
Not so, but I think it just says useful life, and that's probably a good, my goal ultimately is to not have benches everywhere. I would love trees everywhere where it makes sense.
Okay.
But so maybe that is something we can tweak and add and formalize in the adoption at another meeting, because I think that is worth defining the useful life. And I know it's referenced there for trees, but then what happens? So Jack?
Well, I think that we don't want to be cluttered with benches, but some thought, and haven't thought this through, but some thought should be given to how really cool it is when a historic town and you sit down on a bench and you realize it was put there in 1789.
That would be
or
nice.
something like that. And that's part of the thing about Cohasset. We go back a long time, and you walk through some of the old cemeteries, and some of the cemeteries that most people in town probably don't even know where they are. So I don't know how we deal with that, but I think it's worth incorporating it to some extent.
Yep. Okay. Why don't we, let's table it, because I don't want to belabor anything. And I do want to address Corey's thing. And I think that the whole timing of this is probably something to consider and make sure it's clear before we vote it as a policy. So I'll clarify that, send me any notes, and then we'll put it on the next agenda for approval. Corey?
Just one more thought is, if the donation also includes, does it make sense to create a fund here where the donation goes into a fund which can then be used for the maintenance of these items? That way it's kind of a separate basket of funds.
You know what, that is implied, but a single fund is not implied. And so that's probably something I should talk to Chris about.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
Right,
And
that makes sense.
that
But
cost.
discourage frivolous expenses, that people realize, you can't feel good about so-and-so. You got to pay for it for eternity.
Right, exactly.
Frivolous benches.
Right.
Certainly not the intention.
Kind of like government debt. It'll
Right.
never go away.
So that probably makes sense, assuming we can administratively manage a specific fund where all these tribute donations go to, and that fund is then used to maintain, take care of, and the fee is set at $1,500 to include a plaque and general maintenance. But we may not need to maintain one specific tree, but we may need to do some others. And again, the goal is really to not have this in use all the time. I would much rather people send their money and honor their loved ones, supporting some of the organizations in town. But okay. All right.
Okay.
We will bring that up at another meeting, because it's just a policy that's been lingering for many years, frankly, and I would like to just get it off the list of things to do. Okay. Next is discussion on the process for review of the legal RFQs that have been received, and Michelle Leary is here. Thank you for being with us. And if you could just start off by reminding all of us that the responses to the RFQ are uploaded on the OneDrive.
Yes, so we did receive 5 responses to our RFQ, which is fabulous. I can tell you that 3 of the 5 are interested in all facets that we put out, which is Labor Council, Environmental, General Counsel, Special Counsel, and I'm missing one and I can't think of it right this second. But so we have 3 that are interested in all of those. We are looking to put together a committee to review a series of scenarios that we can put forth in the interview process. I did create a small timeline, if I can share my screen and show you the timeline, only because when we did put out this RFQ, we suggested that interviews would take place mid-April. We're now in mid-May and we haven't we haven't started yet. So we just kind of want to get the ball rolling. We don't want to rush through it. We definitely want to give fair consideration to all the respondents, because if you read through these, they're tremendous, the work that went into them. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by every single RFQ that you receive. So let me just share a quick timeline with you.
And
can everyone see my screen?
yes.
Okay. So for this evening's meeting, we just want to review the process, the number of respondents, which is 5. I can say just from reviewing all of them that every single firm that submitted an RFQ meets their responsive and responsible bidders qualification. I think our next step is to determine an interview of the panelists. In the RFQ, we indicated that the finance director would weigh in, the town manager, the HR director, and the public works director. Of course, you can structure it any way you see fit. Those are just some recommendations. We should look forward to the next couple of weeks to put together the interview schedule. And we do need to just group those series of questions from relevant boards and committees. We did get their feedback initially in the process, and that's how we determined what went into the RFQ. But I think now that we have all the responses back, it's best to go back to those boards and committees and have them play out a scenario. For instance, if it's environmental land use or conservation, it would be great to get a scenario that would best suit asking the companies that responded to that, or the firm, sorry. Okay. I would like to have those back in hand by May 20th. So we can review at the May 25th select board meeting, and we can finalize the questions, because in fairness to all the firms, we should send them the list of questions ahead of time. It should be a fair playing field. Everyone should receive the same questions.
Yep.
We should finalize the interview protocol at that meeting, and finalize the invitations. And that would mean suggested time, place, if you're going to do it over Zoom, if you're going to do it in person, whatever the board sees fit. Okay. I suggest on the June 8th meeting, we actually have those interviews. I think allotting 30 minutes per firm is fair. Just like we're supplying the questions to them ahead of time, we would ask that if they have questions of us or the committee, that they ask those questions, we can respond and send them back to them. We are going to ask that every attorney or anyone that has been recommended to work for the town of Cohasset be present for these interviews. It's great that the principals submit on behalf of their firm, but you do want to see if everybody in the firm kind of works and jives with the people in Cohasset. Yeah. And then June 15th, I would recommend that the board review, deliberate, and then award council. And you're not just awarding one, you're awarding several. Or if it's your desire to award one, then we can discuss at that meeting.
Just another thing, and then we'll work back up to the top of the timeline, is, at that June 15th meeting, when we discuss, who we want to award legal services to, or how many of, however that gets played out, that one of the things we should be prepared to talk about as a board is, any pending and current matters that currently exist. So we're going to be discussing potentially new contracts with some folks, or maybe not with others, but there may be some gaps, and we need to figure out when we're going to set the new contracts in motion, and what we're going to do with pending matters that we have aplenty. So working back up to tonight's discussion, what I'm hoping we can do is agree that this timeline makes sense, and in general the points are we've covered what we need to cover. In terms of interview panel, if it's only a half hour per firm, and we're going to basically come up with 5 or 6 questions, I might recommend that it's the 5 of us plus the town manager who manages legal counsel on a day-to-day basis in terms of asking the questions. And then ultimately we're going to be the ones deliberating. But, I guess the question is, if we get input from, finance director and DPW, or whoever else puts input in, plus the committees and the boards, we're going to flesh that into some kind of interview protocol that makes sense. But I don't know that all of those people should be part of the panel. But, that's just my initial instinct, is if there's 12 of us sitting at a table, and we have 5 or 6 questions to ask, when everybody is certainly welcome, because it's a public meeting. So just throwing that out there for discussion. Jack?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work is done on this. I think we're setting up a pretty good process. One of the things I'd like to see, and I think you agree with this as well, Diane, is the boards and committees. They are actually the ones who are using these services. And it's very important that they get their perspective in there. So I think that whatever we do, that part of the process should be each board and committee can determine whether it's their chair or whatever, but they ought to be given a full position, probably equal to that of the select board members in this whole process, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. And they really depend upon an attorney, and they are also will give us on the select board a pretty good feeling for what they need, which is important.
And I agree to an extent, and I do think that one thing we need to do tomorrow is, and probably through Michelle as kind of our agent in this, to reach out and make sure all these committees and boards have an opportunity to submit questions / scenarios. And then Michelle collects all of them, and we will also do the same thing, each of us. And most likely there's going to be 5 or 6 or 7 that are, that come out of probably 35 submissions. Like, it's going to boil down to 5 or 6 or 7 questions / what would you do if kind of scenario that we're going to decide on May 25th. The question is, to what extent who's part of that actual interview panel? And if it's open to the public, everybody's invited, and we can very specifically, we're going to have to we're also going to have to come up with a grid system for scoring, because this all has to be done as objectively and as kind of data oriented, with obviously just general feelings that isn't data. But the question is, at what point we're the ultimate arbiters in this, and we have to make the decision to hire. You know, at what point do we ask for score sheets from, you know, certain chairs? I don't know. So Corey and then Carrie.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about like kind of direct input, but I mean, we need to have an input. We need to have input from the committees because I think there's kind of two perspectives. There's one, there's a town hall staff perspective that comes to the town manager and the staff of understanding what a committee does and what the legal functions are. But I think that can be a very different thing than what the committee does and what they feel they need. And I think we really have to listen to that part as well, because these committees, you know, someone who serves on committees or serves on one committee, you know, there are very specific needs, and there's no way we're going to be able to figure those out unless we just listen. So,
Right.
I mean, one thought would be just to have town staff liaise with every committee we have, and to, you know, help draft a document of not necessarily scenarios, but what are the things that you look for representation that you need, so we can really understand what they're looking for. I think the scenario things is really good as well. I think it's something else, but I don't want to just get into that. I think we need to have a broader listening first, if that makes any sense.
Yep. Carrie.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think it's really important to get committee feedback. I guess for me, I'm a little bit worried about how we keep this so objective and standardized during the actual interview process. You know, we all know lawyers, God love them. We love all of you, but you know, let's say that we each decide on five questions total. Each board member is going to ask one question. I know a couple lawyers that might take a whole half hour answering one or two. Right? It's like we need to really, I think, set some standards for being able to have each person within that half hour answer all five questions. I just want to make sure the town and the viewers watching and all of us are able to treat this as objectively as possible, so it doesn't appear like any certain party is getting favored or, you know, not treated equally.
Right. And I think that's important. You know, we can actually set timers, but I do agree. I honestly don't think, especially a full service firm that's coming in and is asking for, you know, all of the legal business, that that a half hour is going to cut it. I think we're looking at probably at an hour. But we have to manage the time, and I think that's part of the hurdle that they have to, you know, lawyers do like to talk, but at the same time, you know, they also need to be concise and get to the point. And that's part of our role, is seeing that they can summarize an answer to a scenario, for example, in 5 minutes, because, you know, we're going to have to time it. Paul?
So listening to all this, a couple of things. I think, you know, one option may be, we're probably going to come down to, I think, 5 questions each from one of the select board members. One might be a scenario question. The other one might be the sorts of things that we don't regularly see at the board level, but we see in the committee level.
Right.
Information, what does CPC normally run into? What does conservation run into? And what do you have to offer for the town for conservation law? So it might be a mixed bag of a scenario. I think of it as almost as a open-ended question and multiple choice. So you've got the scenario, and then you've got what do you have to offer? Because I think from the board level, we oftentimes don't see not so much the minutia, but the peculiarity of any given committee's interaction with litigation law, information, how to go about meetings of various sorts. So it might be, one way is get the information from the committee, see what they need, and maybe they have some scenarios that we can put forth, come down to a review process that, as best we can, as objective as possible. It's not going to be as objective as it possibly can be, but maybe having, you know, half an hour for an open-ended question, and then, you know, an hour for the full service for everything. Again, as kind of as an option. That's my thought.
I'd like to use May 25th to kind of hone in on what that protocol is, you know, whether there's going to be 7 questions, whether one's going to be a 10-minute, you know, give us a 10-minute open meeting law flash course or something. We can do that. And I'm hoping that what we can at least do tonight is what, you know, what is the question that we're going to put out to our committees to get their general feedback. And I agree. I think there's, there's scenarios. There's also the practical, what are you looking for? What are the skills that are important, to your board and commission? And I also think it's a little tricky in that, we have to assume that these boards are going to meet and can discuss this on an agenda. Otherwise, we're getting input from 7 members of a planning board or 7 members at Concom or whatever. We have to think about how to manage all of that. But I think ultimately I'd like to get to the 25th and have as much of that general, this is what we're looking for, this is what we would ask. And then we can start outlining, the protocol. Corey?
Yeah, I'm going to regret saying this, but, I would not feel very comfortable trying to talk about this in a meeting with any other topics. This is such a cerebral topic, and this is such a, vital thing that we're doing here. Right now it's 9:17. I've got maybe half my brain power left after a full day. That's being generous. So I see we have other stuff, but I just want to be sure that I think every step of this needs to be its own meeting. I don't think we can put these in together because we're not going to be fully engaged, and this is important.
And I totally agree. There will be nothing else on the 25th agenda, and I actually think we should have we have a meeting on June 1st, so this would be simply a meeting on the 8th for interviews, and it might end up being the 9th. I don't know. Jack?
Yeah, I agree with Corey, and I also would further add to it that we don't have a deadline where this has to be done.
That's correct.
I think and we're going through town meeting. We have lots of things coming up. We have an election coming up. We had 2 good candidates last night who were both speaking very well. And lots of stuff's going on. And this is very, very important because we'll set stuff up for a long period of time. So I think Corey has a good point. And I think we have to have separate meetings. And, one suggestion is to have each board and committee have a participant, perhaps non-voting, but a participant around the figurative, table to participate in meetings just for this purpose and set up in a way that they can be effective, and they will take some time. And just, I think that's probably a better way to do that. And trying to cram it in while we're trying to figure out all the things with the town meeting. We have some very, very major issues with the ball fields that we're all going to be trying to figure out if we can solve that. And I don't think we want to put this hostage to the other stuff we've got going on. We have plenty of time. Let's do it right.
I think June, I don't want to stray too far from this calendar, only because we in our Rfq had expected that we would be wrapping this up, but I certainly would like to start the process tonight, to reach out to other committees for feedback, and then on the 25th, and if the board doesn't have the bandwidth on the 25th and you would rather, do it a week later and move our select board meeting to the 8th, whatever. I don't want to stray too far because I want to get to the point where we're distilling the questions. There's a lot of boards working with a lot of counsel on very important matters. And the longer we drag this out, the more complicated it's going to be for everybody. So I do think, again, that while there's no deadline per se, it's something that we need to keep moving because we've been talking about it for, almost 10 years. Corey?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of second that kind of idea of I don't want to slow play this either. We've got a lot of really big things that are coming up in the next 6 months. Zoning bylaw. That's got huge implications for the town, and I want to be sure that if whatever firm we choose has enough time to get into these things before, without delaying them, and to be sure we're doing the right things here. So I also don't want to I think there. I don't want to rush it, but I don't think we have all the time in the world. I think time is of the essence here.
So could I propose this? Could I propose that tomorrow? I think one thing we need to do is reach out to the respondents to the RFQ and just, thank them for their submissions and let them know that we have met, we have drafted and outlined a process. We will be meeting again within the next couple of weeks to refine the actual, interview questions and dates, and, we'll be in touch. And then separately reach out to these committees and boards, both for their input on questions that they would ask, or qualifications or challenges that they've had that they would like addressed as we consider council's legal services going forward. Keep that deadline for whatever, it's really little type, May 20th. And then we'll plan to have a legal services meeting on the 25th to kind of push this all together, see what kind of feedback we got from the committees, and then we can determine at that point how we want to set up the interviews and when. Michelle? Does that make sense too also? Because you're the one that's gonna, on our behalf.
It makes complete sense, and I agree. You don't have to rush it. We're not under any race for time here as far as the RFQ is concerned. I understand your need to move it forward. Just one suggestion about the 30-minute interview time slot for each firm. There's nothing that says you can't develop a list of 20 questions and just choose a few to have live and have them respond in writing to the additional questions. So if there are some pressing questions that boards and committees have, and you don't feel as though you can fit them in through the interview process, I would send them out and have them respond.
Really good point. Okay, we'll do that. There are members of the public, I believe, that want to input. So I'm going to ask them to raise their hands so we can promote them. And just, happy to take your input for a couple minutes. We're not using the Q&A feature because it's been too hard for us to manage and monitor. And but if you want to say something, please raise your hand and we'll promote you. Thanks. Is that Jean? You want to identify yourself? And
hi, it's Jean Haley-Dippold, 93 South Main Street.
Hi, Jean.
I just thought I'd weigh in because I do a lot of interviewing of lawyers for the government, and we have a structured interview process, and it sounds like you're setting that up. We also have a consistent rating process as well, which is important when you're looking at and trying to compare firms. One thing that I would say beyond scenarios is the firm's actual experiences and results, including, for example, rates of success with respect to appeals. It's important to know that, for example, when they're weighing in on, let's say, zoning decisions, that they're giving good counsel, which is ultimately help protecting the town, because that is an important thing, and it helps also save the town costs if counsel is well known to have a strong reputation. And so I think that, those are key actual benchmarks that probably should be considered. You probably want to consider other related benchmarks, like, for example, settlements, et cetera. So anyway, I just wanted to add that in for what it's worth.
Thank you very much. And the other thing I mentioned earlier that I want to stress too is, and on the 25th we can discuss this, is we do need a consistent rating system as we evaluate this, and it all, for everybody needs to get the same fair shake. And agreed, we need, in addition to their response to scenarios, to understand, how good they are. It's one thing to have a lot of experience. It's another thing to actually be effective. So thank you for weighing in. Tom?
Good evening. I didn't expect or necessarily need to be on camera here, but if you saw any of the Q&As I was doing,
no.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I when hearing DPW finance, very, all due respect, an attorney who knows something about municipal law should be involved in the interview process. Be one of the interviewers, all due respect to everybody. I think if you're going to have a separate meeting on this topic, invite all the land use boards, because in our agendas, we don't have the bandwidth to go into deep dives and issues like this as well. I'm going to bring this up with the planning board Wednesday, now that this has been brought up, and start the process of getting our input and questions in for you. And I don't think you need scenarios and hypotheticals and things like that. I would echo what Jean said, is the most important thing for the boards is capabilities. We need somebody, if the board doesn't have amongst its members somebody who knows how to write a decision, well, then you need a lawyer who knows how to write a decision well for a board and will take input to the board, not control the board. You need someone who can litigate, and we need to know what their strategy is for litigation, how they approach litigation, and be involved to the degree that don't let the board make a stupid decision that leads to stupid litigation. Don't laugh, Corey, it happens all the time.
That's we know that.
Not laughing because it's not serious. I'm laughing just because it happens all the time.
You know what? And I don't mean to toot my own horn, but back when I was on your board, we came up with a policy of how to deal with litigation so that we weren't going down the path of constantly fighting everything in court. And at the time, court costs were out of control. But at the same time, not stepping on the board's toes to let them make the decisions they need to make, including the ones that might end up in court. But it's all about capabilities. And then, on many of our boards, you have to have the attorney dealing with a particular board needs to know the state law that board deals with inside and out. Wetlands protection for conservation, the zoning bylaw for us, and the zoning board.
Sadly, that should go without saying, huh? So
well, I'm coming into this not knowing why you're even doing this, because we have an excellent town council. When you talk about zoning bylaws and town meetings, we have one of the best. So I don't know why you're doing it, but be that as it may, towns do this from time to time, even if they intend to keep their current council, just to see what's out there. But
that's right. So I just, Tom, with all due respect, I want to try to kind of wrap this up, but you did bring up a very good point, which I think we can, as we discussed, Michelle, earlier, I do think we should reach out to boards and committees, ask them to submit some, general comments, and anybody that's, I mean, literally, this is the business of the public. So anybody watching can send any of us emails and tell us anything they want to tell us. They do.
Yeah, one of the questions.
Tom, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So, but what I do think is maybe that meeting on the 25th, we do invite people who are interested that are currently serving on some of the boards that utilize council, and help use them at that point in particular to help us frame the questions and some of the metrics that we will be scoring people on. Corey, you had your hand up, and then I want to move on. Chris as well. I'll listen.
Yeah, I just want to thank Jean and Tom for their input. That was very valuable. I do also want to bring up, just for public note, we do have a town manager that has a fair bit of municipal experience and is not
an attorney.
Lawyer, an attorney, yeah. So he will be at the table and will be, as always, a guiding force for us. So that's great.
Thanks, Chris.
No, I just got to thank you, Corey. I remember reminding Tom that I actually practiced municipal law for 16 years.
I'm well aware of that. I didn't mean that as a slam.
No. I wasn't taking it that way. Believe me. I try to hide my lawyerness all the time. Okay.
No, you don't. Okay, so I just want to, I really do want to wrap it up and just have the conversation now amongst the board, so that that we're agreed to at least the next step based on our discussion tonight. Would anybody like to move that our next steps, according to that first scenario section of Michelle's schedule, is that we would have a second, we will have another meeting within the next couple of weeks to, and solicit board input, board and committee input, and then we'll also invite them to that for a discussion on developing a protocol.
so how are we going to solicit the board? You know, we're not answering that question. I think it's very clear that the boards and committees need to be part of the process, and now we're just giving them a little, well, yeah, you'll be part of the process. I think we ought to make a stand and say they ought to be, each board and committee ought to be able to appoint one of their members to be part of the process, to participate in these meetings, not necessarily to vote, but, and I think that's a very concrete, you know, way to make them know that they're a participant. And it's very important from a board and committee, because what you really need to know when you're a board and committee is what you can do.
Right.
And what the law says, that's your decision, can't be challenged. So you make your decision, and then the attorney is going to say, no, you're not allowed to do this, but you can do it this way. And that's important. And I think they need to be part of the process. This is a very important process. And we're just saying down the line, maybe we'll do that. I think we ought to write them in, you know, right now in this resolution.
I must have misspoken. My intention is to reach out to them tomorrow, because I've been in communication with a number of them and told them that we would be seeking direct questions, ideas for, you know, things that they want to know when we develop an interview protocol. And then I also said that I would like them to actively participate in the meeting in which we determine the questions. Now, there may not be, and we can talk about this at the next meeting, there probably isn't, we are the hiring authority, there isn't necessarily going to be room for 12 questions, for example, if we include everybody. But what I do want is their input on the kinds of questions that we are going to be asking. And, you know, we could ask questions all day long, but I think we really need to hone it into 6 questions or whatever the number is. And we can discuss that with representatives from the committees at our next meeting.
Fine. I just want to
That
make
makes
sure
sense?
that there's a formal way that they're on the table.
Absolutely.
They're at the table. We understand they will not vote, but they need to be at the table throughout the process. I think it's very, very important.
Diane, oh, sorry.
Zoom, Carrie, yeah.
No, just to follow up on that, I do also like Michelle's suggestion that we could have some written responses too, because I don't think we're going to be able to cover enough in the 5 or 6 questions. And I do think there should maybe be like a supplement they have to submit of written questions that we can get committee and board feedback on. So I do like that suggestion.
Yep. And that's exactly, I hope, what we could accomplish in one meeting with committee members, as all of us having this discussion collectively. Paul?
So I think what I hear from the board is that we'd like to have input from all the committees that are out there, that are particularly ones that are having to deal with litigation. Basically the Conservation Commission, the zoning, and the
hearing boards,
and hearing boards.
Land use,
and that's probably the linchpin there. In addition,
Board of Health and sewer and water. Yep.
And then all the other ones that have, you know, the need for access for ability, basically. So we have an ability, we have potential scenarios, and from the board point of view, it's going to be our call. Whoever's on the board, it's going to be our call. But I think they should be certainly invited, and whether it's written questions or submitted questions that we ourselves give, so that we have everyone involved, all the available options of the need is there, so we can discuss the potential, who we hire. I think the idea of sending out written questions is a great idea. That's
to the firm.
That's it.
Yes, go ahead, Michelle, and let us know if anything's not clear.
No, it's clear, but perhaps we look at multiple interview dates instead of trying to have each firm on one date. We extend that out and give them the opportunity to show us what.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Great. So again, next steps are to, reach out to the boards. I know I've been talking to a lot of committee chairs who are anxious to input. I thank Jean and Tom for their input tonight too, because it has shifted a few things in my own mind. And reach out, Michelle, reach out to the firms, let them know, we're in the beginning of the process, but we're going to be moving. And then we'll have a meeting the 25th or whatever. We'll send out a few dates and see what people can make. And we will invite the committee to participate in that as we work together to determine the key points and the key things that we want to schedule or score on during the interview process. And then we'll go from there. Does that sound right? Okay, thank you. All right. We don't need a vote unless somebody feels like we need to memorialize this with a vote. Jack?
Yeah, I guess, Diane, I got this packet Friday afternoon, and your little thing that you just laid out, maybe it was buried in the packet, but I hadn't seen it before. And it would be very helpful when we're bringing up very major strategic decisions in the town to not send it out to the select board on Friday afternoon before that, when clearly there's been a lot of discussion going back and forth beforehand about when we're going to do this. So it makes it very difficult as a select board member to give this proper consideration. And as a select board member, I should be reaching out to the community, right, and talking to some key people, getting their feedback. So if we could have a little more communication and a little bit sooner, and also when you come out with a well thought out plan, which you clearly did, and then present it to us in the middle of this and say, well, this is what you're going to do. I don't think that's really a good way to do that. And I don't want to see that type of procedure going forward on that. So could you just hear what I'm trying to say and get that information?
You're speaking about this, the timetable Michelle presented.
Yeah, I'd like to have seen that last Wednesday or something. And clearly there's been a lot of discussions going behind the scenes. And I just find out
There really
on
hasn't,
Friday,
but
I quite
fair
sure
enough.
there has. I just find out on Friday that we're going to do an important discussion. And, nobody's, town hall is closed, nobody's around, nobody. So I just want to make the deliberative procedure a little bit more, give us the information earlier.
Okay. So that actually speaks to, first of all, all the RFQs are loaded, so we can watch that. Chris, one question I have about that is that accessible to the public? Those responses to the RFQ. Michelle, you might have the answer for that.
So the responses to the RFQ can be shared with the public. Anything we receive is shared with the public or can be shared with the public. There's no secrets here.
Yeah.
So typically when we put out an RFQ, we don't post it until you've had a chance to deliberate and choose a candidate.
Okay.
But we can certainly put it out there. There's no problem with that.
And I actually think that because we're not discussing any of the responses at this point, we're trying to be fair and equitable to them by setting up a series of questions that are, that I don't know that we need to do that, but I do think that there are going to be people that want to see that. And to Jack's point, and I know, Jack, I think you think I have way more time on my hands than I do to fully discuss things before board meetings, but typically the agenda is discussed on Thursday and things get thrown together as best they can be on Friday by the staff. So we'll do a better job, particularly with whatever Michelle receives in terms of input from committees and boards and questions and all of us, getting that out ahead of time so that when we have whatever that meeting is, people have had enough time to read through and say, oh, gee, I never thought of that. I'm going to go and prepare for that meeting differently. So thank you.
Very helpful. Everything that comes before us is a public record. The people have the right to it.
Of course.
Most of them aren't going to read it, but it's important that we have transparency. And you know what happens when you do that? At least I've noticed in past running organizations, that frequently the most unexpected people come up with the absolute best ideas. And those of us who are spending all the time in there look around and say, why didn't we think of that? Well, that's good. We want to bring people in.
Yep, I agree. I do agree with that. So let's do that. Let's work on whatever that date is where we're going to have this meeting where we're going to discuss questions and interview protocol based on getting the information and having each of us have an opportunity to do it. I personally, even though it again, to Jack's point, everything is public, I do think, I don't want to send out the resumes of all the law firms at this point, because I just don't think that's, I personally don't, it is public. If somebody wants it, they could see it, but I don't want to prejudice the proceedings. Let me just put it that way. I want to open
If we
these
can
up.
see it, the public can see it.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. I've already, Michelle.
Sorry, I just want to add one thing. So included in these RFQs is sensitive pricing. I think at the very least, we should take that piece out.
Yes.
We can share everything else. I just think stripping that out would be more fair and equitable to each firm.
I just wanted, yeah.
That's true, Michelle. And by the way, we are putting your diaries online.
So, okay. Any other comments from the board members? All right. Chris, anything? Okay. All right, Michelle, you have your marching orders. Thank you so much for preparing that and being here tonight with us.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done, Michelle.
All right, town manager update.
Okay, a couple of quick things. The town clerk would like me to let everyone know that early and absentee ballots are now available for the town election is June 5th. If you'd like to request one, you can either come into the office and fill out an application or do it online. Right on the front of the webpage today, it says early voting, and you can click and you can click. I think it's a double click to get to the application. And you can apply for a ballot. And it would be effectively early voting and absentee are effectively the same thing at this point. So I believe the deadline, you should go double check, is June 1st for early voting. So you have to request the ballot by then because they have to be returned to the clerk's office by the 5th. And postmarks obviously don't matter. They have to be, this is not one of those, you can get stuff later. I think everything has to be on by the 5th. So okay. That's officially available. I will also let you know that Norfolk County sent out a letter, which I think has all been distributed. We just got yesterday, so it's all been distributed to you. And it talks about, it says a lot. It says very little in a lot of space, but they talk about how they want to collaborate and we're not making decisions.
Right.
All of you. But I will tell you that at the very last paragraph, even though it's addressed to the chair of the board, Diane Kennedy, it says, "We hope this process will lay a firm foundation for greater cooperation and regional collaboration between Norfolk County and the town of Walpole in the future." So,
yeah.
So that doesn't leave me actually feeling warm and fuzzy that they paid a lot of attention to this letter. So, at this point, I think I would recommend the board continue to monitor this circumstance. When you're ready, I released a draft resolution to all of you at the last meeting. When I'm going to continue to talk to my colleagues, and again, I would encourage all of you to do the same. And because the county, it's $137 million, and if we were in Middlesex County, we would be getting the money directly. So the fact that we're in Norfolk County shouldn't mean the county commissioners can do a bypass. So this is a lot of money for Cohasset. It's another $1.7 million. So it's not an insubstantial amount of money. So. And by the way, we're a small fish in this one, right? Quincy's looking at 5 digits, 8 large digits. So is there's something just to keep your eyes on. And I don't know what the advisory committee for Norfolk County is doing. It's something I guess just pay attention to see how this is going. So that's my 2 quick updates.
Chris, on that, and then Corey, I see that you have your hand up, but I do think no matter how this Norfolk County thing rolls out, we're going to end up with some money, both the one that comes directly to the town. And I wonder if at our next regular meeting, we have a discussion about, whether there's a subgroup or, advisory and a select board, or somehow we get together with you and your finance team to make sure we understand where that money is going to end up going. Because it is like a one-time cost thing and it shouldn't end up in the operating budget, as you well know. But I do think we need to steward those funds and set up a structure for that.
No, I agree. And we've been talking about this internally because we're still waiting for guidance, right? So we don't have all the final guidance on this. And I'm sure the guidance will evolve somewhat anyway. We know the big broad strokes on this. At the same time, I think we want to have a structure that makes sense. And again, it's something, the way this is designed is to help local communities help themselves, right? So what we do here in Cohasset can be very different than happens in Quincy or Millis or Franklin, which is another concern about having the county get the money. So.
Right. Great. Thank you. Corey and then Paul.
Yeah, Chris, I was hoping, May 1st, there was the beginning of the townwide speed limit. I was expecting an update from, you on signage, and we were also expecting to hear from Cohasset Police about roads that they would feel were not, were appropriate for higher speed limits. I know there's a lot of confusion around town on this front because May 1st kind of came and went without much of a change. So can you give the town an update on that front, please?
We're still getting signage. I mean, everything's a little slower than we would like. And until we have all the signs we need, we can't post them anywhere. We can't have it say 25 on one side of town and something else on the other. So I'd like to package that all together. And tonight's meeting was looking very, very challenged with all of the, right? So by the time we would have gone to this would be now. So it wasn't done intentionally other than so that you could have a more robust conversation, and it should be done early on an agenda so you could talk through it. So it's not, no one's being ticketed or cited at all because it's not really in effect until it's all posted. It was a rolling date, right? May 1st was the goal. And it's being, there's notices up there reminding everybody that's that's in place, but we haven't put signage, we haven't put the signage up. So I'm hoping at the next agenda that all of you want to make available, we'll do this early on in an evening, whether it's the 20th, so we can get this wrapped. So.
One quick thing on that, Chris, was there's one of those electronic or solar signs or whatever on 3A that talks about the Cohasset speed limit being 20. And while that's very public, it's not going to be 20 on Route 3A. So I wonder if that signage would be better off on North Main Street or some other well-traveled road, because it's I've had a lot of people say, I'm driving down 3A and you're turning it to 20. And I'm like, no, it's not on that road. And they're like, well, that's where the sign is. So just a little incongruent.
I'll
Paul?
pass that back.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a couple things. Certainly the GPS on my car has it already at 25 when I hit town, even on 3A, which is kind of peculiar. So not sure I can't go faster on my autopilot. The other thing, I want to go back to the Norfolk County comments. I want to definitely emphasize that should not go into the operating budget. But the other thing, can we think about like a list of places, should the money come through, what sort of things we would like to see that money go towards? And the guidance, I presume a lot of this may be COVID related costs. So if there could be a kind of a draft list of, options for the money and options on a second arm saying this would be for the COVID related items, just as a draft, that's all.
Yeah, I think that's the plan, Paul. We've been talking about it internally. So when I've talked to the departments that I think are most directly affected about COVID related, again, remember, COVID related stuff includes what we're doing right now, right? I mean, we had to go all electronic and go Zoom and everything else. So upgrading the technology was, which we didn't use any money on really, except for Zoom. The schools did, but we didn't do quite as much on our side. So I think there's we want to put a package together, by the way, and as the guidance comes out, we actually haven't gotten the first chunk of money. May come in the next 30 days. It'll be somewhere in the 400,000 plus range. I think that it's 400,000 now and then 400,000 a year from now is the way they're going to do it. And I think they're splitting that other money up as well. Though again, what Norfolk County does is still open the question. But that's going to be, I think, split over 2 years as well, this fiscal year and next. But again, so we will do that. We will, I think, planning a meeting and maybe right around the goals time too, to figure out how this all plugs in the, goals and objectives and all that would be.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll turn it over for select board comment, beginning with Jack.
Well, I think this town is doing very well. Spring is here. It's nice to see we're starting to get our Memorial Day back going. We're going to have the common being used again. I think there's going to be kind of a semi-strawberry festival going on. So things are looking good in our wonderful town. Just want to give a little, we saw some really great cooperation down on the town pier between the police and the fishermen, lobstermen, about figuring out how we can make sure that works. So everybody should be prepared that there's going to be striping down there, which will show you that that's for commercial fishermen, lobstermen. They work hard, they need to be down there. It'll be clear, so you'll know that you shouldn't be using it. And I kind of advise that if you don't want to get the lobstermen upset. But anyway, it was nice to see the police department working very closely with the fishermen. So all in all, things are good in our great little town of Cohasset. Have a good weekend, or have a good week, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Jack. Corey?
All right, so important date is Thursday, May 13th at 7 p.m. That is when the Town Hall Building Committee is going to have a public forum. If you subscribe to the Mariner, you may have seen there was a long Q&A about a lot of the questions that I've seen tossed around in conversations on email and social media. In order to help that, I will be releasing a video tomorrow that's going to try to educate or at least bring some clarity to the idea of how we pay for town hall. I see that's a question that pops up a lot. And my goal as an elected representative is to keep everyone educated. So I'm excited to show that to everybody. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. And then again, this week is National Prevention Week. Safe Harbor has been sending out a lot of materials in this front where they're covering stuff from underage drug use, illicit drugs, everything. So, go to the Cohasset Safe Harbor website to collect this information. Now's a good time before we kind of get all distracted with summer events to really kind of reflect inwards about how we can all kind of be better about safe behaviors. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Corey. Paul?
So a couple of quick things. One, as the harbor starts to open up, one of the big things, everyone's going to be wanting to be on the harbor this year. So the Cohasset Rowing Club has, I believe they have 80 participants this year, which is a lot more than usual. So keep in mind, as the harbor opens up, we're going to have to share it with fishermen, lobstermen, boaters, sailors, rowers, kayakers, all of that. So keep that in mind as the waters open up. Be patient, be careful, be cautious. A lot of people are going to be on the water. The other thing that came out as of yesterday, the Pfizer got an authorization for 12 to 15-year-olds for vaccination profile. So ask your physician and your pediatrician regarding vaccination. Third thing, very good news from the state point of view. There were 0 COVID deaths. It's the first time since I believe it was in June of last year. So we're on the other kind of, I hope, on the other side of this. So still be a little bit careful, but we are really coming through this pretty well. So the town has done extraordinarily well. I want to thank everyone. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Carrie?
It's so fun to be mentioning events again. A couple other things. If you have not checked out the new website for the Cohasset Pride Project, go to cohassetprideproject.com. You can order your flag for your house. You can order your yard sign. There's a lot of other cool merch coming and fun events coming for June. And also next Wednesday, the 19th, from 1 to 2 p.m., Elder Affairs and the library are hosting an LGBTQ 101 event for anyone that wants to talk about how to use modern day language and proper pronouns and that type of stuff. So I really commend Elder Affairs and the library for putting that together and hope there's a good turnout.
That's terrific. Great. Thank you. Corey, thanks for bringing up the town hall meeting because, this is a project that has had unanimous board support for the last, I think, 18 years that we've been discussing this, and the last 10 in particular. This is the third time, and it's an important project for so many reasons. So I encourage people to reach out and go to the forum and learn more about it. It's something that's really critical for the town. I put a couple of things on select board comments because I wanted them on the agenda, which is we are entering the time of the year where we're trying to get people interested in serving on town boards and committees. And there are a lot of really critical positions that are either open or opening, including some positions on the Conservation Commission. And these are hearing boards that work incredibly hard and have a lot of responsibility for the town, and we cannot function without optimal engagement by the residents of the community. So I encourage my colleagues to reach out to your friends. We all know that while it can be challenging and time consuming, it's also incredibly rewarding to serve, and we have a responsibility to these committees to help populate them with good people who have some skills and talent and a willingness to share that with the town. So please reach out. That also brings me to the School Facilities Committee, which we have been sort of pushing out for the last couple of months to try to get applications for that. But that is another kind of multi-year study committee for the school facilities that is really critical. The select board has 3 appointments to make, and we really, I don't think have anybody that has specifically expressed interest in that committee. And there's also the moderator. So the school committee chair, the moderator, and I are going to meet next week about again, casting a wider net and trying to get some really key people there. We need people that have experience in, finance, legal, building, construction, anything like that would be helpful. So that's going to be just a really important, but I think a really interesting, fun, creative committee to be involved with over the next couple of years. And then the recreation fields and maintenance analysis. As you all recall, there is money in the town meeting warrant for a study, and the Rec Commission is going to be discussing this at their next meeting. They have, by bylaw, responsibility for doing planning for field use. So they understand the pressures that a lot of the sports groups and boosters, including the baseball, Little League, CYBSA that we've been working with for the last couple of months, they understand it's at a critical point for so many of youth sports in town, and they're willing to sort of spearhead and come to us with some ideas on who to engage, how to engage, and try to build over the next 6 months or so. And I told them it should be on a fast track, because this is probably something we should have been doing 4 years ago, but we need to accelerate it. We need to address tennis. We need to address CYBSA, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to happen. And the next step will be in the Rec Commission's hands. So I'm thrilled about that. Other than that, we do not have minutes to approve. I have no topics not reasonably anticipated. So Jack,
Motion
I'm looking
to
at you.
adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, I was waiting for a second. You might not, we almost didn't get one.
I'll wait all night.
Okay, vote
Unmute
please.
fast enough.
Yeah, there you go. Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey.
Sorry, I was just looking. I thought there was something else, but I guess not. Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Great. Good night, everybody. Thank you. It was a long
Good night.
meeting, but we got a lot
Excellent
done.
moving.
Appreciate it.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everyone.